What unfolded on Capitol Hill was not just another heated exchange. It was an extraordinary accusation of lawlessness leveled directly at the head of the Department of Homeland Security. Rep.Delia Ramirez of Illinois used her time to deliver one of the most forceful rebukes yet of DHS Secretary Noem, accusing her of lying to Congress, violating court orders, and running immigration enforcement in open defiance of the Constitution. If you want clear, fact-based explanations of moments like this and why they matter beyond the headlines, be sure to subscribe. Ramirez began by directly challenging a repeated claim from DHS that enforcement actions are narrowly focused on people who are undocumented and dangerous. She said the public record tells a very different story. She entered into the congressional record reporting that documented cases of U.S. citizens being wrongfully detained by immigration agents. According to investigative reporting, dozens of American citizens have been arrested, physically mistreated, and held for days by immigration authorities despite having legal status. Ramirez emphasized that these were not isolated paperwork errors, but serious violations with real human consequences. She then turned to another core talking point used by the administration, the claim that ICE is only targeting the so-called worst of the worst. Ramirez cited federal data showing that tens of thousands of people arrested by ICE had no criminal records at all. Her point was clear: the enforcement dragnet is far broader than officials publicly admit. Subscribe if you want reporting that explains what the data actually shows, not just what officials claim. The exchange escalated sharply when Ramirez moved to the issue of court orders. She reminded the secretary that Congress is a co-equal branch of government and that the executive branch is legally bound to follow rulings issued by federal courts, including the Supreme Court. When Noem insisted that DHS was complying with all judicial orders, Ramirez confronted her with a specific example. She referenced reporting that a federal court ordered the administration to stop deportation flights sending migrants to a large detention facility in El Salvador. Ramirez stated that despite that order, flights continued and that Noem herself made the final decision to proceed. Noem responded by asserting her authority over deportation decisions and criticized what she described as radical judges interfering with enforcement. That response only intensified Ramirez's criticism. Ramirez accused the secretary of lying to Congress and violating court orders by allowing deportation flights to continue. She also referenced allegations from migrants who reported abuse, violence, and severe mistreatment after being sent to detention facilities abroad, allegations that have been documented by human rights organizations and journalists. If you care about how immigration policy intersects with human rights and the rule of law, subscribe so you do not miss this coverage. A major focus of Ramirez's remarks was oversight, or what she described as the department's refusal to engage with it. She said she had repeatedly requested meetings with ICE field office directors and with Secretary Noem herself, including a formal request when Noem visited Chicago. According to Ramirez, none of those requests were honored. On the spot, Ramirez asked Noem directly whether she would commit to meeting with her. Noem said yes. Ramirez responded by stating that her office already had dates ready, underscoring how long she said she had been trying to secure accountability. Subscribe if you want to follow whether those commitments actually turn into action. Ramirez closed with an extraordinary declaration. She accused the secretary of misusing congressionally appropriated funds, engaging in unethical conduct, making false and misleading statements to Congress and the press, and undermining the separation of powers by ignoring both lawmakers and the courts. Her conclusion was blunt and unmistakable. She said that, in her view, Noem lies with impunity, rejects checks and balances, and disregards the rule of law. Ramirez then laid out what she described as the remaining options: resignation, dismissal, or impeachment. Whether those efforts gain traction remains to be seen, but the confrontation itself signals something important. This is no longer just a policy disagreement. It is a fundamental clash over whether immigration enforcement will operate within the boundaries of law, oversight, and constitutional limits. We will continue tracking this story, including any investigations, responses from DHS, and follow-up actions by Congress. If you want ongoing, in-depth reporting that connects the legal arguments, the politics, and the human impact, make sure to subscribe.